Hello out there in the Cotton Belt. Man, we hope that y'all are hunkered down because, according to something called a European weather model, the Mid South and the Upper Southeast for sure are about to get a big winter blast here as we record on Thursday, January 22nd. So, here in Memphis, we are apparently right on the border of the big blue blob, which indicates snow, and the big purple blob, which indicates ice. And personally, I'm hoping we stay in the blue for the sanity of this town, who doesn't really do well with either snow or ice, if I'm being honest. So, if there is a silver lining to the coming snowpocalypse, we can dream about what this might mean. This extended freeze might do to insect pest populations, right? We're going to bring in an expert on today's podcast to talk about that and more with respect to crop protection. Dr. Phillip Roberts is going to be joining us to talk about the remarkable arrival of the cotton Jassid here in the U.S. Cotton Belt. So stick around. Okay, welcome once again, and let's get right down to it with just a couple of brief news items. We did want to mention that Cotton Incorporated has presented its Champion of Cotton Award to textile manufacturer 1888 Mills in New York. It comes after the company predominantly showcased the organization's Seal of Cotton trademark on its 100% cotton bath and bedding collection. That was launched last year in 2025. 1888 Mills, as an FYI, has warehousing operations down there in Georgia, and they have a showroom, brick and mortar kind of showroom there in New York City. They also do sourcing and sales operations around the globe. William Kimbrell, president and CEO of Cotton Incorporated, said, "The Champion of Cotton Award recognizes brands who are leading by example. 1888 Mills demonstrates long-standing leadership in the home market, from sourcing and manufacturing to clearly communicating fiber choice through the Seal of Cotton trademark." So, always great to see a downstream brand working to promote our U.S. cotton brand, which is superior, in my opinion, and that is to our growers' benefit. So, big tip of the cap to 1888 Mills and to Cotton Incorporated for, platforming and recognizing folks who are doing good by us. So, moving right along. There's been really no noteworthy market movement over the past week as we podcast here. The market has had time to digest the big news a couple weeks ago. Maybe it was just a little over a week ago now, when both China and Brazil, in short order of each other, both indicated that they might be drawing down cotton acreage and cotton output in 2026. That did send prices upwards just over a week ago. But since that time, there's been some new tariff talks with big geopolitical meetings happening in Europe this week. And there's other fundamental uncertainties that have had the market kind of on a narrow, little gentle roller coaster here in the mid 60 range for much of this past week. So not really much to report there, but we are going to dive into this conversation with Dr. Phillip Roberts here shortly. The first thing we want to do is to hear from our episode sponsor, Americot, proud providers of next-gen brand cottonseed. Brady Arthur, Americot Market Development Specialist, recently sat down to visit with our own custom content manager, Hillary Wynn, and we'd like to bring you that conversation right now.
Hi, I'm Hillary Wynn, Custom Content Manager at Maestro Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. Joining me today is Brady Arthur, Market Development Specialist at Americot. He's going to discuss some common misconceptions about Thrive-On technology and cotton. But first, a little about Brady. He grew up on a family farm in Texas and earned degrees in plant and soil science, agronomy, entomology, where he focused on Thrive-On traded cotton. In his current role at Americot in South Texas, he works directly with producers through plot trials and product training. Brady, welcome to the program.
Hey, Hillary. I've never been on a podcast before, so this is a first for me. I'm excited to be here. I'm glad to be on. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you. Brady, what is Thrive-On and how does it offer protection against feeding insects in cotton?
Thrive-On refers to a trait package. It's a relatively new one in the grand scheme of things of cotton production, and it's one that we offer here at Americot with our next-gen brand of cottonseed. So what it is an insecticidal protein that has been incorporated into the cotton. that allows protection against some sap-feeding insects. It's the same concept as the proteins known as Bollgard and how they protect against bollworm and budworm. But in this case, the Thrive On protein that is expressed targets thrips and plant bugs. And what this protein does is it disrupts the stomach of the target insect and ultimately limits their ability to continue feeding. So while in the field, the insect does have to eat the feed on the cotton and ingest that protein to have its desired effect. What is commonly seen, though, is that the insect doesn't necessarily die, or there is limited mortality associated with this feeding on this protein. However, the feeding disruption is what offers protection towards your cotton.
So, how can Thrive On be implemented into a farmer's pest management strategy?
So understanding how the protein works is key. That protein, again, must be ingested by the target insect for the desired effect to happen. And then from there, the limited ability to feed actually is what offers protection to those cotton squares and that young seedling cotton in the case of thrips. So by limiting the amount of damage that we see in the field, even though the target insect may be present, we're going to have to adjust thresholds for our over-the-top foliar applications of insecticides. At this point, I know a lot of extension work is being done out there to kind of hone in on what these thresholds need to be for spraying over-the-top foliar insecticides. However, at this point, I think the best thing that we can be doing is educating farmers out there on what this protein and this trait package from Thrive On can bring to the table. If you're able to go out there and scout for your target insects, and maybe they are present or maybe they aren't in the field, but you're not observing the damage associated with the feeding of that target insect pest, maybe we could alter our spray applications to kind of make them more advantageous and efficacious for that grower to allow him to get the most bang for his buck, if you will, out of those applications. Just because the target insect is present at what we would consider threshold levels, and I'm guilty of it too, Hillary, where I'm walking a field and I see the target insect on Thrive On and I say, oh gosh, it's here, it's present. But if I'm not noticing the damage to it, maybe we could reassess that application of an insecticide and maybe make that, again, at a time that's more advantageous to that grower. Or maybe use a chemistry that in the past we would have shied away from because of limited residual activity or whatever the reason may be, and be able to use that now in this system conjoined with Thrive On because it can limit the feeding of those target insects and kind of reduce the amount of damage that we see due to their feeding.
So, where can our audience go for more information?
So here at America, we have a lot of local sales reps, and these local sales reps are very knowledgeable. So getting in contact with your local sales rep is probably the easiest way to find out more about Thrive On, find out more about Americot or just next-gen varieties in general. So getting onto our website, americot.com, you can find your local sales rep there, or if you're already in contact with them, give him a call, visit with him about this. I'm sure we'll all be happy to visit with anybody about our products and Thrive On in general.
Brady, thanks so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you for having me. I've enjoyed it. I'm glad that y'all are out here spreading the good word and giving a voice to cotton farmers.
Okay, a big thank you to Brady Arthur with Americot and to our custom lead, Hillary Wynn, for bringing us that interview. Now, as alluded to earlier, we'd really like to dive into our discussion on the cotton Jassid, an insect pest that originated in India and yet somehow has come on like gangbusters here in the United States, starting in Florida in 2024. This pest has, in very short order, spread its footprint across the cotton belt. We want to bring in a man who can tell us how it's moving at such an alarming clip and also what our listeners can do to minimize the damage it causes in their fields. Without further ado, let's bring in Dr. Phillip Roberts, who I watched lead a lengthy panel discussion on the cotton Jassid. That was back at the Beltwide Cotton Conferences a couple weeks ago in San Antonio. Now, as a University of Georgia extension entomologist, Phillip here has had a lot of firsthand experience, unfortunately, with this exotic and formidable pest over the past year and a half, I think is about accurate. And he and his fellow extension peers and area consultants have done an exemplary job of being rapid in their response to this threat and setting up test plots and trials. I mean, really on the fly and rolling with this thing in real time, all in an effort to give cotton farmers in this country a fighting chance against this pest. So truly an impressive display of what I would call country boy scientific know-how. in my opinion. And man, it just an impressive job by those guys. So Phillip, welcome, sir.
Hey, glad to be here. And you're right. So fortunate to have such a good team of entomologists that really tackled this new pest.
Yeah. I mean, like I say, I was amazed at how quickly, you can't just snap your fingers and run out there and have a test up and running. I mean, you got to secure plot space and do the thought processes behind, hey, what are we testing for? What should we test? And just amazed at how quickly y'all have responded to this thing. So I'm putting the cart way in front of the horse here. Can you tell us, just kind of right out of the gate, give me the basics on this pest, the cotton jassid? Where did it come from? How did it get over here? And when and how did your peers down in Florida first recognize it as something that they needed to be paying attention to?
All right, so the cotton jassid, it's also known as the two-spot cotton leafhopper. It is actually native to the Indian subcontinent. Been there for many, many years. It's been a pest of cotton in India for many, many years. The insect was first discovered or detected in this hemisphere in Puerto Rico in 2023. The insect was found in South Florida in 2024, and the insect spread throughout the Southeast in 2025. Actually, the very first detection of this insect in the state of Georgia was on July the 9th. So, we talk about a rapid response, but literally as Jassids and this problem, we recognized it to be a problem. We dropped a lot of other projects just to focus on Jassid, and it demanded it that we do that.
Yeah, just amazing how quickly it has spread. Dr. Roberts, can you tell me, just out of curiosity, can we account for how it has spread geographically so quickly from Florida into Georgia? I know y'all showed the map at the Beltwide, and it was kind of a county map of where it's been detected. And man, it was all the way up into the Carolinas. It was as far west as the Texas coastal bend. Can we account for how it has spread so quickly?
For certainty, no. I have a theory that Hurricane Helene or maybe some other hurricane system actually brought Jassids into Georgia in the fall of 2025. Hurricane Helene came through Georgia in September of 2024. That's what I should have said. If you look at how Jassids spread, they spread up the East Coast very quickly. They were slower to spread to the west. And then we have isolated, occurrences of Jassid in Texas, Louisiana. How did they get there? Another theory, maybe through shipment of plant material, or maybe just a hitchhiker on a vehicle. There's a lot of questions we don't know. We do know in Georgia, Alabama, Florida, and South Carolina, Jassids are in basically every county we produce cotton. So they spread very quickly. You can just have some natural movement of an insect, but leafhoppers in general will ride weather systems to move these long distances. So the point is the Jassid's here, and it's spread across many acres, and all of our growers, consultants, county agents, industry reps, if you're cotton, you need to be looking for this insect.
Yeah, just real briefly, and I remember you talking about it there in San Antonio. Can you give us an idea of how widespread the infestation was in your state, in Georgia, in 2025? You said y'all first identified it sometime in early July, and then what were the numbers from there?
Well, so we first detected it in the southwest corner of Georgia on July 9th. By mid-September, our county agents did a great job helping locate where this insect was present, but it was in every cotton-producing county in the state of Georgia. Now, looking back as how problematic it was, we estimate we sprayed about 60% of the acres for cotton jassid. Year one, right out of the chute, we sprayed half the acres. That's just incredible. And it's something that's really unprecedented for an insect to reach that level requiring management in year one of a detection. So I was proud of our growers that, our growers did a really good job managing this insect. And, I wish we wouldn't have it, but we got it now. and we're going to continue to learn about how to properly manage the insect.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned the idea of requiring management here. It makes me think about the threshold for what you guys see as threshold of population that would require some action. I know you said that that kind of evolved as the year went on as y'all were studying this thing. What did you land on? What is the threshold for
Here we
requiring
are
action?
as we go into 2026. And again, one of the things we've got to understand is all our experience with this insect is post bloom. Okay. So the threshold we landed on was 1 Jassid per leaf. And we're going to look at a certain leaf on the plant. The fourth leaf below the main stem terminal is where we're going to scout for this insect. And as we go into 2026, that's where we are. 1 Jassid, average of 1 Jassid per leaf. And, you know, I want all your listeners to understand that this is a fluid situation. You know, as we learn more, that threshold could change again. You know, as the season progressed in 2025, we got more and more aggressive. Initially, we were at 3 Jassids per leaf, then 2, then 1 to 2, then 1. So, you know, extension and delivery of information, you know, make sure you're in tune with your county agent or extension entomologist so you understand recommendations for your geography.
Yeah, but what about just real briefly? If I'm a farmer, I have not had this pest last year, never had it. Are there any things that I should be looking at in my field? I mean, even from the turn row, looking out the window, that might be a red flag. Like, hey, what could that be? Jassid damage.
That's a good point. And so let's talk about what the injury looks like. So the Jassid feeds on the underside of the leaf. It's a very small leafhopper. They're very tiny. And when they feed on plant cell contacts, they actually inject a toxin. And this toxin causes a reaction in the plant where the leaf will have what we term hopper burn, some light yellowing around the edges of the leaf. And it looks like nutrient deficiency, potash deficiency. In time, that leaf turns red and ultimately could desiccate, dry up on the plant if the Jassids are not controlled. So one of the things that this insect showed us in 2025, it really liked field edges. Most of the time, or nearly all the time, your highest populations of Jassids were on the edges of fields. And this damage, once you saw it on the edge, I mean, it was the insect was a good teacher. So farmers really did not question the need to treat a field when they saw the edges of the field declining so rapidly. And this injury can happen quick. We can see plants go from healthy green to a reddish tinge in as little as 14 days. So literally you can see this insect out the truck window. You can see the injury on the edges initially. You don't want the whole field to look like your edge. So farmers were not reluctant to treat because the insect showed them what it was about to do to the field on the edge, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
that's a good point. And but I really think this is an insect we've got to scout for. Even if you haven't had it in your state, still needs to be in your mind. This is an insect we can manage if it comes in after bloom. Our growers demonstrated that. But it's also an insect we cannot miss. We did a lot of yield studies, you know, this past year in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina. My colleagues, I guess that'd be Isaac Esquivel, Scott Graham, and Jeremy Green. And what we ended up seeing was a yield loss in Georgia. On average, we lost 13%, but our range of yield loss ranged from 1% up to 46% in the state of Georgia. So it can be a very damaging pest. And if you have it, it's going to require management to pick a good crop.
yeah, yeah. I remember that the slide you showed, there was a trial in Florida that was treated versus untreated. The untreated plot lost 90%, if I recall correctly.
Right. And that was in Quincy, Florida with Isaac Esquivel, and he saw a 90% yield loss, basically where he didn't spray for the Jassid, made like 150 pounds, where he treated twice for Jassid, made 1,300. So
yeah,
say you cannot miss the pest. That's what I mean. And we don't know when it's going to come in. We do know the earlier it came in on our trials, like the trial you referred to from Florida, those Jassids infested that trial about first bloom. It was late planted cotton. The later we get into the bloom cycle, the smaller our potential yield loss is, but it's still there for, throughout the blooming period. So we're going to learn more as we go, but the earlier they come in, we're probably going to have to be more aggressive with management.
So forgive me, I need to just spell it out for me. What does that mean for plant date? Or earlier planting, the better here? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, probably. And again,
early indications suggest that I should head.
Early indications, yes. So it was interesting in the state of Georgia. Initially, we were seeing Jassids on our earliest planted cotton first. But when we looked at yield loss, and a lot of this is observation, but we have data also, yield loss was greater on our later planted cotton. The reason why, the Jassid got there earlier in the bloom period. So the earlier they show up, the greater the potential yield loss. So a late planting date is going to be at higher risk of yield loss.
Yeah. Dr. Roberts, I got a bunch more questions. I know we're kind of running short on time here. You're a busy man this morning. Just real briefly before I go, I know you have mentioned scouting and then quick response with application on this pest is super important. What, if any, insecticides seem to have best efficacy in your early trials?
So we looked at a lot of different products. We threw the kitchen sink at them. We probably looked at, 20 to 25 different insecticides, rates and whatnot. And at the end of the day, we have what I'm going to refer to as top tier products that do really good on Jassid. Products such as that I have a lot of field observations on. The carbene or flunicimid was very good at controlling Jassid. In the state of Georgia, we used a lot of dicrotophos or bidrin initially. A lot of times when our growers were spraying Jassids, they were also targeting other pests like stink bugs. Stink bugs is our number one pest of cotton in the state of Georgia. And a product like bidrin would get both. But there are other top tier products. And then we have some products that I call are mid-range products. And these are typically products like we use for plant bugs. That could be Centric or Transform, something we target plant bugs with. They're fair, but they're not what I would call a knockout punch. But I think it's also important we understand what products did not work. And one product or a class of chemistry we use extensively in Georgia for stink bugs is pyrethroids, specifically bifenthrin. Does a good enough job on stink bugs and has a very low price point. But bifenthrin is not adequate, does not provide good, adequate control of Jassid whatsoever. So, if you have Jassids in the mix, you're going to have to, adjust what your insecticide or tank mix is to make sure you're covering all your targets. So, as we get into the year, I'm sure the entomologists will be coming out with more program type programs to manage Jassids, when you also have plant bugs or when you also have stink bugs or when you're concerned about whiteflies. That's just some things I'm thinking about as we enter 2026 in Georgia.
Very good. Very good. I got one more question for you, and then I'm going to let you get out of here, Dr. Roberts. As I hunker down and prepare for snow and ice apocalypse here in Memphis. I think here's January 22nd. We got this big weather system moving across much of the mid-south and the southeast. Could these I'm looking for a silver lining. Could this cold snap, this freezing snap, help with some insect populations?
Great question. I wish I had an answer.
Oh, okay. I wasn't trying to throw you a curve.
I will give you my thoughts.
Yeah.
So this insect, and it's native in India. The northernmost area they grow cotton in India is basically the Georgia-Florida line, if you look at latitude, north-south latitude. There's not a lot of information in the literature about how cold temperatures impact this pest because they don't have a lot of cold temperatures. I do believe the cold weather has helped and helped a lot. Did it eliminate the pest? We don't know. It's going to be very interesting since these things are scattered up the East Coast. My colleagues in North Carolina, South Carolina, here in Georgia, to see what really happens with these cold events. We've been monitoring Jassids on yellow sticky cards since August. We had our first killing frost on November the 11th. We got down to 26 degrees, which we don't always do that in the state of Georgia, but our Jassid numbers dropped by 90%. We've had several additional cold snaps, killing frost, and we're catching very few Jassids right now. What does that mean? I don't know. It does mean that the numbers aren't what they were a month ago or 2 months ago. But what's that mean as we go into 2026? We're not going to know until we get there. And that's why I say this is a fluid situation.
Very good. Great answer. Great sound answer there. All right. All right, sir, ma'am, we appreciate you being available on such short notice. Again, massive respect to you and your colleagues down there in the Southeast for the speed with which y'all have responded to this threat to our industry. So a sincere thanks and have a great weekend, sir.
Hey, Big. Appreciate it. See ya.
Thank you. Okay, that's going to just about do it for this episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. A big thank you to Dr. Phillip Roberts of the University of Georgia Extension Service for spending time with us today. Thanks also to our sponsors, of course, Americot and their next-gen brand, Cottonseed. And as always, we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us and for your continued support. We hope that you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did like what you heard, please be sure to spread the word and tell your farming friends and neighbors about the Cotton Companion podcast. Here's where and how they can find us.
You can find the Cotton Companion in 3 easy ways. First, go to cottongrower.com/companion, or simply click the podcast tab at the top of the homepage. Second, subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever you find your podcasts these days. And 3, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-News, that's delivered to your email inbox every Tuesday morning. You can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, be sure to follow Cotton Grower on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter. And on Facebook, you'll find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine.
The Cotton Companion podcast is produced by Mr. Tyler Hatch and Miss Kim Henderson, our talented colleagues at the worldwide headquarters of Meister Media Worldwide in lovely Willoughby, Ohio. I'm Beck Barnes, and we will be back with you in a few weeks with our next episode of The Cotton Companion. Until then, rest up and stay warm out there.
'Cause God made me a farmer. Yeah, he works and he works and he works and he works all